We're just that. We're just good moral people. Yeah. Yeah. Were they following the law to the script, or were they following the spiritual aspect? Love God and keep His commandments. That's what the law was. That's what it was. His commandments aren't grievous. They aren't that hard. They'll free you from slavery that you don't even know you're in. He gets to at the end of this chapter. We don't know we're slaves a lot of times. Then some of those Jews believed. Now, the question is, were they saved? Some of these. Is there a lot of people? I mean, we live in Wayne County, so I dare say there's not too many people you can ask, do you believe in God? And what are they going to say? And if they've got a death in the family, what do they love Jesus? But are they committed? Are they, they say they believe. I believe in Jesus. Thoughts? I'm trying to spur somebody. Everybody get quiet on me, though. I'm sorry. Jesus said, you don't know me. You don't know the Father. Well, I find that to keep that thought in your head when we go into this next section as we end chapter 8, because John tells us in verse 31, then Jesus said to those which believed. So after this conversation that he's just had here in the treasury about I am the light of the world, many believed. I believe you're the Son of God. You're the Messiah. You are the Christ. You're the anointed one that we've been looking for. I believe. Even after we say we believe, there's going to be trials. And I think that Jesus has given us, he's given these a test. You say you believe, but do you really believe? We as Christians, we say we believe, but do you really believe? If you continue in my word, look, notice what Jesus tells them they have to do. Then he said to those that believed, if you continue in my word, continue King James Version, if you abide, if you stay in my word, then you're my disciples for sure. If you continue in the word, then you're my disciples for sure. You shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free. And I scratch my head. Free from what? These Jewish believers now, these that, they're following Jesus now. They's in the temple teaching in the ladies' court maybe. Now they're believers. Now they're following him around. Let's see what this guy's all about. They answered him, verse 33, we're Abraham's seed, and we've never been in bondage to any man. How do you say you shall be made free? Was that true? Had the Jews ever been in bondage to anyone? Had Abraham's seed ever been in bondage to anyone? The Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Romans in the first century, they've had a pretty good thumb on the Jews or anybody in the world in the first century, the Romans. That may be what they're trying to say here. So, and think about, what is a slave? We don't know too much about that in today's time. In today's time, a slave would do what his master says.
But he also be a slave to sin.
Some, what happened when the master died? Let's look at slavery in our country 150 years ago. Or what happened if you weren't a good servant? You're sold. Yeah, or killed or sold or whatever, whipped, whatever. You're a slave when the master dies. You either become the property of the next guy, the son, or you're sold. All the estate was sold. If you cause trouble, if you're not a good servant, you're sold. And men, so we deny that. We deny that we're slaves to sin. Jesus tells them this is a hard saying. This is another one of them John 6:60s. This is another hard saying. To whom you yield yourself servants to, you're a slave. So were these people say, we've never been in bondage to any, we're Abraham's children. What about Abraham? What kind of servant was Abraham? Faithful. God says, Abraham, leave this land of Ur and go into this land I'll show you, and you shall inherit. Abraham never inherited. Abraham, you're going to have descendants as the sand of the sea. Abraham never receives that in his lifetime. He has Ishmael and Isaac, and then I think he has 3 more children maybe, or another child or 2 by Keturah, but he never sees that in his lifetime. Abraham, faithful servant, go into this land. You lived in tents all of your life. A friend of God. He did what God told him to do. Yes. Somebody quote that verse. Yeah, I can't. Yeah. Being servants of sin. We're Abraham's seed. We've never been in bondage. So were they liars? Or did they just not know? And it's interesting, he's talking to those who believed in him now. He's testing his followers, I think. Jesus is testing those. Many of the Jews which believed, Jesus turned to them and he said, if you continue in my word, you're my disciples indeed. You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. We've never been in bondage. They don't understand that spiritual question. They're taking it as a fleshly question. I'm a son of Abraham. Well, yes, you can trace your descendants through Abraham. You may be able to trace your descendants all the way down to Grandpa Abraham. But God can make sons of Abraham out of these rocks. He can take these rocks and make sons of Abraham. Abraham was faithful. He had a faith that worked. Hebrews chapter 13, 11, 12, 13, the Hebrew letter, speaking of Abraham. We've never been in bondage to anyone. Jesus said, verse 34, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, whosoever commits sin is the servant of sin." And what sin, he says, whoever commits sin, whoever misses the mark, you know, that Greek word harmato or something, it means missing the mark. It was an archer's term. Boop, if you miss the mark, you're sinning. Whosoever misses the mark, you're missing the mark. Whosoever misses the mark is a servant. If you miss the mark, you didn't hit the center. And the servant doesn't abide in the house forever, but the Son abides forever. Jesus, in one of the other gospel accounts, he speaks of the parable of the householder. He buys a vineyard, and he lets it out to husbandmen, and he leaves. Harvest time comes, he sends people to get his harvest because it's his property. And what do? They stone them, they kill them, but he says, I'll send my son, and they'll recognize him, and they will, these Jews are not recognizing the son. God says, I'm going to send my son. They didn't recognize the prophets. They didn't recognize John the Baptizer. I'll send my son. And they didn't recognize him. Jesus speaking that parable in Matthew. The son, not the servant. If the son therefore shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. I know that, verse 37, you are Abraham's seed, but you seek to kill me because my word hath no. And you do that which you have seen of your father. So he's still not telling them you're sons of the devil, but he will. But we're seeing the degrees. We're seeing the degrees. Any thoughts there before we quit? I think that, I know we're in the middle of this discussion. I hate to leave Doc with that, but we're in the discussion about Abraham. And they're saying, well, maybe Abraham ain't my father. God is my father. We said the next couple of verses.
Even people today, you've got the word, and if you don't get into it and talk to your father and have a relationship with him, you still don't really know him.
We can say we can believe. We say we believe. I believe in God. And funerals, you'll see it, even people that live like the devil, you'll see it at their funeral and their family. I believe. But we get tested. Our faith gets tested every day. Jesus tested the faith of those that followed him. They were believing. Well, do you really believe? Do you know? There's that difference in knowing there is a God and believing there is a God, and he'll do what he says. Yeah, has there been some bystanders that walked up to the back and they said, "What's going on over here?" Maybe so. Has some of those slipped away when they heard the hard sayings? You know, if you want to, not believe in Jesus Christ, all you got to do is read his words. There's hard sayings in there. And if you don't accept that, I mean, you don't need the devil to tell you. Jesus will tell you it's hard sometimes. But good discussion. We'll start right there about what verse, Doc? 38. We'll start about right there next week. Thank you for your attention.